All right, spiced pecans and brown rice, video number 4. This is probably gonna be the last one that I'm going to do for you guys because I've already walked through the process, well, each individual ingredient on Moodle. So this is more kind of you visual people to help really talk you through it. So the last thing I want to talk about is the cinnamon and through transitive property, the cayenne pepper. I want you to think about what's happening here with this pinch value. When I talk about a cayenne pepper pinch, cinnamon pinch, some people will say, "Oh, I'm just going to charge a nickel for that one and be done with it," which is pretty valid. When I'm going to show you how you cost it out, and you might find that that's really appropriate. And that's what you want to do in your business. So I want to talk you through it. One thing to note is when we talk about a pinch, that is an eighth of a teaspoon. So we could rewrite this as an eighth of a teaspoon. And I'm just going to abbreviate with a lowercase t. And if you put 1/8 in your calculator, you actually end up getting 0.125 as your decimal. So some of you might prefer the eighth, some of you might prefer the 0.125. Doesn't really matter. For me, the recipe said a pinch, so we're just kind of switching it out there. So if I look up the price for cinnamon, I find that I can get it ground, I can get it whole. This one says ground, so when I look it up, it's going to be $22.23. So the price is $22.23 per 16 ounces. So pound of cinnamon, a little over 20 bucks. That sounds pretty reasonable. Your prices might be a little bit different based on where you are, where you're located, and what kind of source you're using. So we'll just run with that one for right now. Now, we have quite a kind of quandary here. When I go thinking about the APC unit price on this, a lot of people start saying, well, I've got it in ounces for the price, and I want to go ahead and take it down into teaspoons, which is all well and good, but the problem is when you do that, there's a lot of math involved with doing that. You have to do a whole lot of work to get that one down. Well, let me show you kind of the first step, because the first step, we're going to have to turn this into per ounce, regardless of what we do. So I'm going to take my $22.23 for my price, and I'm going to divide it by my 16 ounces. And when I do that, I get $1 and 3894 per ounce. So a little over $1.38, about $1.39 per ounce. Now, some people decide that they want to go ahead and find out the price per teaspoon as well at this point. But I would strongly suggest that you don't do that. I would go ahead and just take my per ounce right here and write that in here, 1.3894 per ounce. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to get to that, and I'm going to show you kind of the next step that I would do first before I tell you my reason, and hopefully you'll be able to figure that one out as we go. So, I've got my revised quantity step now. I need to make sure that my ounces here match up with oh dear, well, that's a teaspoon. That doesn't match up. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out, how do I get a teaspoon over into ounces? Now, you've got to be careful, because a lot of you are like, oh, teaspoon, there's 6 of those in an ounce, and I got that. So I'll just take, divide by 6, divide by 8, and I got it. Hold your horses right there, because that's 6 teaspoons per fluid ounce, not for a weighted ounce. If you think about it, cinnamon is a very lightweight product. If you get a chance, measure how heavy a cup of cinnamon is. It is nowhere near 8 ounces heavy. It may be 8 fluid ounces because it's a cup, but it is not 8 weighted ounces. Instead, what you have to do is you have to look up and find out how much does a cup of cinnamon weigh, or how much does a tablespoon weigh even. So I've been able to do some research, and I went in and I looked up in the Book of Yields what is the weight of cinnamon, and I found that a tablespoon of cinnamon is 0.25. So it's 1/4 of an ounce per tablespoon. And this is a good thing to know. If you don't have the Book of Yields, hopefully you have a tablespoon and a kitchen scale and some cinnamon on hand, because all you really have to do is just scoop up your tablespoon, put it on the scale, make sure you tear it out, and then you should get that answer. Now, most of you will probably either get 0.2 or 0.3 for your answer because you won't have a hundredths place scale, but that's fine. I just looked this one up, so just something to think about is, again, I said in the last video, Book of Yields is a really handy resource for you to pick up. So knowing that it's 1/4 ounce per tablespoon, and I've got 1/8 of a teaspoon, what I'm going to end up having to do is do a little bit of converting here. This 1/8 of a teaspoon, I'm going to write it up top here. This 1/8 of a teaspoon is 0.125 teaspoons. And I need to convert this into ounces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little fact that we just found out about the tablespoons and try to, well, actually before I even do that, I need to turn this 0.125 into tablespoons. So I know that there are 3 teaspoons per 1 tablespoon. And basically what ends up happening is I do 0.125 times 1, and then I divide it by 3. And then the teaspoons go away, so I'm left with nothing but tablespoons. So I'll take 0.125, divide by 3, and I have 0.0416666666666, so 7 tablespoons. So I've got this information right here. And I'm going to convert this into ounces by saying, okay, well now I know from this fact down here that I had that it is 1 tablespoon is 0.25 ounces. Now some of you may be asking, how do I know so quickly that it goes in that order and not 1 up top and 0.25 at the bottom? If you remember from our conversion chapter, I think it was module number 2, if I've got the problem number right here, when I take my fact here, the matching units kind of go catty corner. So if the problem number is tablespoons, the tablespoons go in the bottom. If the problem number is teaspoons, the teaspoons goes in the bottom. So in this case, I'll do 0.01, what was that? I'm sorry, 416. I'll get that right. 0.0417, and I'll times that by 0.25, and I get as my answer 0.010425. Now we've got to ask ourselves, what is that answer there? Well, these cancel it out. All I'm left with is ounces. So that pinch of cinnamon weighs 0.010425 ounces. Or if we just kind of cut it down a little bit, 0.0104 ounces. So that cinnamon, that pinch of cinnamon, would not even register on your kitchen scale, which makes pretty good sense. I mean, I don't think it would register on really anybody's scale unless you had one of those little, electron micron scales, something really small. So sometimes you kind of have to fall back on measuring a larger quantity and then just converting it down. Whew, hopefully that made sense. Fortunately, cinnamon, nice and straightforward. It has 100% yield. Clearly, if I bought cinnamon sticks, that might not be the case. Well, cinnamon sticks, that's not going to be 100% anyway. So if I need 0.0104 ounces of cinnamon, I'm going to buy 0.0104 ounces of cinnamon. And again, I'm trying to recoup this money that I already spent on the cinnamon. I'm not literally going out and getting that little bit of cinnamon. That'd be kind of weird. And then for the final cost, I'm going to take that 0.0104 and I'm going to multiply it by the 1.3894, the APC. And I find that my cinnamon cost, it's going to be $0.0144976, or if you want to round it, 2 cents. So nice and cheap quantity there for the cinnamon, but it did cost us a bit of money. So you want to make sure that we appropriately cost that one out. And that's how you deal with the cinnamon. That's how you deal with the cayenne pepper. So it would be the exact same way. However, something to keep in mind is that cayenne does not weigh the same as cinnamon either. And that's something that throws students for a loop a lot of the time, is that they think, oh, well, if a pinch of cinnamon was going to weigh 0.0104 ounces, that's going to be the same for the cayenne. And that's actually not true. In fact, if I look up cayenne pepper, and let's see, if I find that one, Cayenne pepper actually weighs a little bit differently. For cayenne pepper, it is let's see if I can find it here, 189 ounces per tablespoon. So cayenne pepper weighs even less than cinnamon. So the number that you're going to get for the revised quantity is going to be even smaller. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the revised quantity to help you out a little bit, and then I'll let you finish up the costing for that one. So with the cayenne pepper, same exact process. I'm going to take my 1/8 of a teaspoon. Remember, I get that just from doing 1 divided by 8. And I'm going to take the fat of 3 teaspoons per 1 tablespoon. It's the same one I had before. So I end up getting the exact same answer, the 0.0417, and that's going to be tablespoons. Those teaspoons canceled out, that's why. But then this time, instead of multiplying it by the 0.25 like we did before, I'm going to multiply it by the 0.189 ounces per 1 tablespoon. So when we do this multiplication, 147, I'm going to multiply that by 0.189. I end up with a grand total of 0.00788813. So the cayenne pepper pinch is really only going to be 0.0079 ounces. Look how much lighter that is than the cinnamon. Can you believe that? So what happens here is this cost is going to be different from the cinnamon. You can't just say, oh, well, this pinch was 2 cents. That means this pinch is going to be 2 cents. You'll probably find that this cayenne pepper is more like a penny. So I'll leave you to find the price on the cayenne, and hopefully you'll figure out what the yield percentage is on cayenne pepper and see if you get around a penny, or maybe it's even more than the cinnamon. You tell me. Thanks for watching. Take care.